We're going to go over a brief installation of your RC Flite light system. Once you've got your lights unpackaged, check to be sure that nothing was damaged in shipment. Here's what you should have for your parts content. You should have a small package that should have 4 brass inserts, 2 mounting plates with 4 small screws for your wingtips, some flat steel washers, and some 440 hardware. 5 bolts to be exact, 5 washers, you have 1 spare of each. For this installation, we're going to actually be removing the wood screws and putting in our brass blind nuts. In this instance, we already have our first hole location because we're going to use an existing hole. We're going to drill out and put our first insert in before we finish our measuring. Once you've got your hole drilled in the end of your wingtip, we can take some CA, start the insert very gently, CA on our insert, and we're going to screw it into place. Okay, so the next step is to dry fit the very first hole. And now we're going to make a mark for where our second brass insert hole is going to be. We're going to just use a small T-pin to make a small mark here. Now we're going to drill our second hole. Once you've figured out where you're going to install your light plug, take the outer template, set it gently on your wing, and trace around where you're going to make your cut marks. It's really important to make sure you can get the wiring through the wing. So take a small flashlight, look inside your wing, and make sure there's a clearance area to run your wiring through. After you've made your measurement for your plug, make sure you cut it with an X-Acto carefully. Now, based on your application, you may have to open up the hole slightly bigger than what you drew inside here, or you're going to have a tough time getting the wiring through. You're now ready to run your wiring through your wing. Everything is pre-soldered and all of your connections have already been pre-made. Please remember, do not cut any of the wiring that came with your system. It's there to provide the adequate and appropriate voltage for your system. If there's any excess wiring, simply coil it up and hide it inside your wing. It's handy if you have a piece of brass tubing or small dowel rod. You can actually position it between your wire and between the piece of plastic used to hold the back of the screw. This will allow you to insert the wiring from the fuselage end down to the wingtip. Go ahead and insert your wiring down into your wing. Once you've got your wire pushed through from the other end, take your small plate that's provided and 2 set screws and tighten the access or the covering plate tight. If you have an airplane that's using SFGs, you'll be taking them off when you fly at night, but when you are using them during the day, you're going to have to take your small spacer that almost all airplanes use for SFGs to clear your ailerons and cut a small access panel to allow your plug on the outside of your wing just so it doesn't bulge. We installed the night system on this airplane, which works up to aircraft with 75-inch wingspans. This aircraft has a 56-inch wingspan, so we've left with some excess wire. We're simply going to coil it up and hide it inside the wing. Remember, don't cut any of that extra wire off. It's part of the resistance of your lighting system. So we've connected a battery to this wing just for testing. Let's do a dry one and make sure everything fits right. We're going to take our lights, And everything works as it should. Now that you've got your wings done, the next step is to install your battery. Remember, only use a 2-cell Life battery. Never use a 2-cell lithium polymer battery. Well, you've done a great job installing your system and you're ready to fly. Remember, check those battery packs, make sure you're fully charged before you go out and fly. Have a great time. Be safe.